Well, what's up, peeps? Subscribers and newcomers and friends alike. How's everybody doing today? I had the flu yesterday, so I was kind of out of commission. During that time, of course, anytime I'm sick, I always have this newfound love for being healthy, I guess. And I've mentioned this before in videos, that it's just, anytime something negative happens and you feel like shit, make sure that you use it as a catalyst to get to something great. You know, use that as a stepping stone. You can only sink so far before you start to rise. So, anyway, this morning I got up and I watched a video. It was a TED Talks video, and it was about, I can't remember the title of it, but it says, "Are you a global citizen?" And of course, at first, it was just another, the whole video, it's like 18 minutes long, and it's just another guy with, utopian ideas of being able to help one another out and to fix the world, and that's the illusion, or that's the view a lot of people take of it. Like, hey, the world's fucked, I'm not going to worry about helping other people. Let me kind of backtrack a little to give you a background on what he was trying to convey. He was talking, he gave a story of a girl who came over here from Jamaica, and she wanted to help African girls go to school, someplace she'd never even been or lived, but she found that moving and she wanted to change that. So she started up on social networking, collecting pennies from all her friends. That save your pennies from everybody. She ended up getting 700,000 pennies. It's like $7,000, and she sent it to, I can't remember, she was able to send a few girls to school. So this was one person deciding to take some of their time to make an impact and help others too, who are less fortunate. Another example was a guy who went to the Philippines to stay with some people, and they lived down on the in the garbage dumps. Some of these people, they live in the garbage dump, and whenever a new truck of garbage comes, they just go and rummage through it, try to find anything they can. Now, this is just their normal life to them. That's what they do. Doesn't mean they like it. Doesn't mean they hate it. In fact, I saw I can't remember where, it was a Vice episode where they were showing these kids that live on the tracks in, Thailand, I think, or something like that, one of those places. But how they live on the railroad tracks, and when the trains come in, they all run up and they collect the plastic bottles that people have left on the train and take those back into the recyclers for a few pennies or whatever they get. And they live on the streets. And they're all the children from these vast groups that came in of workers to help build this massive city. And when the work was done, I guess often the workers would leave their kids just to kind of roam around while they were out, and while they were working, trying to make money. And the kids ended up starting these groups of these hoodlum-like kids. Of course, when you get to know them and you actually see them interviewed, they're sweet-ass kids. They're great children. They are awesome people that really want to just live a good life. And when they're actually sat down and asked what you want, the one guy said, I didn't ever want to do this. He says, he's like 10 years old. He's like, I want to go to school. He's like, I want to learn. And it's easy to block those stories out and just say, yeah, well, the world's messed up and that's how it is. But I'm kind of tired of the shitty attitude that people have towards helping others. And what bothered me and what inspired me to make this video was when I looked at the votes on that video about, global people, helping people globally. It had something like 500 thumbs up and about 150 thumbs down. So I left a comment saying, I was like, I'm just shocked at the amount of thumbs down on this. It's one thing to not want to have anything to do with other people and just to protect your own family and your own world, your own life, but to actually actively vote down the idea of helping other people, it really just blew my mind. So I was curious to the responses I would get, and generally people said, one guy even said something like, well, I don't want to see McDonald's in Spain, I'm sick of this globalization and corporations, and I'm like, wait a minute, back up. This is what everybody always leads to when we start to talk about these things. They assume that it has to be corporate or government or profit related, but that has nothing to do with what he's talking about. We're talking about networking with groups of people getting together to try to make a positive change. Not to try to make a profit, not to try to take money out of the pockets. Nobody's trying to strip cash out of Americans' pockets to send to Africa, although, most Americans probably wouldn't mind giving a little bit more if they knew that the money was going to the right places. It's almost become, cliche to care about others, as if, hey, we live in this tough world, you just got to deal with it. And I just don't go for that. I think that's total bullshit, complete bullshit. I think one thing that's overlooked is the fact that we live in a day and age right now. This is the most amazing time to live in history. I can see how people can be overwhelmed and have a negative view. Look at all this technology, there's nobody's paying any more attention, everybody's stuck on their phones. You know what it's like when you first get something new? You just want to play with it all the time. Or when you got your first cell phone and you played games and did all this crap on it, and then eventually it fades away, the novelty wears off. This is what's going to happen with the internet and technology. People aren't going to just go to the internet to seek out arguments or to go to blog about this or that, but rather to use it as a way to get together quickly and network. And this is what's happening with hashtags. I've never even used Twitter, and I've always been kind of opposed to it, actually, because to me that was like, here are people following other people. But since so many people are interested in it, I have to give it some credibility, some credence to it. Like, what exactly is it? Well, people were able to use Twitter to start these hashtag type things where you see everywhere now. Hashtags will eventually turn into something else, and websites will eventually get to the point where we can, I don't know, it's hard. If you've grown up, if you're about my age, you probably grew up with the internet, you were in your 20s when it really became popular. So if you were an adult when computers came into the day and age, you remember how long it took to download, or watch one quick video, or how slow your computer would be. But how today it's become so overwhelming that we feel like it's just, The idea is to get out of that and to use this tool, this amazing tool, the internet, for the right reasons, to do things like get 700,000 pennies to send a few people to school. Now, this may not seem like a big difference, and honestly, one person sending a few girls to school in another country, no, that's not a huge difference. It's not making an impact. But when a billion people do that exact same thing, it does make an impact. It's the old excuse people have of, well, one person really can't change that. What are we going to do about it? It's like it's out of our hands. And people along the lines of things like the government and conspiracies, the whole New World Order, all that type of stuff, let's just say that, for the purposes of this video, that those are true. That there are dominating forces trying to rule. That there are people trying to take more than their share. And we know that's a fact, but what I mean is that... Papa! Gotta go. Papa! What? What? I don't care. God damn it. Well, I got interrupted there and I kind of lost my train of thought, so I guess that's okay. It's become kind of a long enough video. I guess the only point I really wanted to get across was that people need to help one another and do it in a way that's conducive to their lives. If a person's suffering and they're having a tough life, I can't blame them for not wanting to help other people. I mean, I understand what it's like to barely make it, from payday to payday, not have enough to get anything extra, and to, barely be surviving. But I also know that even in those times when I am living check to check, I have a home to live in, and I have transportation and means to buy food. And often these basic things are overlooked, as if, just humans are humans. We all deserve to have a good life. I am not in any way saying that we can fix all the world's problems, or that everyone can live happily. There will always be arrogance and ignorance and pestilence and wars and famine. There will be all types of worldwide disasters that will come up where people will be displaced, lose their homes, lose their lives, their loved ones. There will always be people who are wronged by society, who will take it out on others, and people who will rob and steal and plunder. But that should not in any way detract from our ability to try in our little corner to make an effort, whatever it is. I mentioned something about borders and how, that the borders are the problem, and it was misunderstood as if we should remove the borders. What I meant was that the borders are in our minds. The borders are divided to keep nations apart, but they're not divided to keep people apart. So, if you live in LA and you're looking across the fence into Mexico and saying, oh well, that's Mexico, just remember that border is just invisible. It really doesn't exist. It's just a creation of man to help divide economies. But I don't want to leave on the note of saying that, our nation has taken a lot more than it deserves, but it's not just the US, it's several countries who have taken advantage of other smaller countries that have, by giving them very small amounts of money for huge plunderings like oil, gas, coal, diamonds, gold, and these multi-billion-dollar companies can move in and make all these promises to a region, say, hey, we'll help you rebuild your town if you just give us rights to your minerals. And this went on for the whole last century. And now we're in the modern day and we see what it's done, the repercussions of what's happened by taking resources from other people. And if you dare talk about that, people say, well, tough shit, that's America. America, we have to, take our share, we have to get what we can. I don't even know how to really convey the point I'm trying to make, because it seems so damn obvious. We need to wake up. We need to grow up. And we need to start, functioning as a world. It's easy to look out the window and see the rest of the world is something else, but it's like the astronauts say when they get to space, say that the most amazing thing is looking back at the Earth and realizing how small it really is, and how close we really are, and how amazing it is to be alive.